Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be showing you how to do some pattern work with the Cessna 172 over in X-Plane 12. Now the cool thing with this plane is when it comes to traffic patterns, I don't even want to think about how many landings I have in the real world. I might have more real world landings with this plane than I actually have in-game landings. That's actually not necessarily a good thing. And you're probably sitting here going, that doesn't make sense. Why would that not translate? Because a simulator landing is not a real world landing. And you will know what I mean the first 3 or 4 times you actually try to put a plane on the ground, for sure. All right, so let's go ahead and do some pattern work with this plane today. I've got everything kind of squared away and easy to go. Not a big fan of the orientation here of this little map, so I'm just going to switch it real quick just to make it a little bit easier for me to see what's going on. Very nice. So when it comes to this plane, it's straightforward. There's not a lot of weirdness to it until you start doing some fun landings, which we'll basically demonstrate for you in a moment. So after our initial power takeoff here, we're just trying to get a little bit of ground underneath us. Remember, you're going to need a lot of right foot to keep this thing nice and stable. Don't be going too hard one way or the other. Like I said, about 75 knots is going to get you going up fastest. We're pretty heavy, and it's not necessarily a cold day today. So again, 500 feet per minute is pretty good for us. There's about 600 feet, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and execute my left turn here, and we're going to start getting us all squared away for the runway itself. Let the nose come down just a little bit. That's a little more comfortable. Keep in mind in the real world, too, is you might have passengers, although why would I be bringing passengers on a traffic pattern flight? I've done it. It's it's not very exciting for them. I can guarantee that. But, it's nice to have the extra weight. I know that sounds dumb, but, it is nice. There's our lovely runway 24. We're going to come out a little bit here. Now, we do have noise abatement procedures here. As you can probably tell by those houses right next to the water, those are people who do not like it when we fly over their heads. So one of the things they would actually have us do is they'd actually have us go a little bit further out before turning over to take our pattern. For today, we're going to assume it's the weather's too good down south, so everybody abandoned their house. So they're going to go down there and enjoy. All right, so what you'll notice here is I got my crosswind and then I've gone into my downwind leg. You'll notice I'm exactly 1,000 feet above my level here, and that's about as effective as you can hope it's going to be. So what I like to do with this plane is I like to pull the power back to about the 3/4 points. I'll let the nose come down just a little bit. Some people, what they try to do is they click a flaps in right now, which basically are 10-degree point. It's not a bad idea. I used to do that when I was first in flight training. I don't do that any longer, only because once you start doing flaps, things start getting disturbed. Instead, what I like to do is I like to take this time to get the aircraft basically as square as I can, or parallel in my case. And I also like to try to get myself right around my full flap speed of 85 knots. Now, the reason I like that is I'll show you in a second here. There we go. That nose up about 1,000 feet AGL. Looks good to me. I'm going to pull the throttle back to about 1,800 RPM and put in 2 clicks of flaps. Now, this aircraft in the real world, yoke's going to come hit you in the chest here. So what I'm going to do is push this thing down on my own and start bringing in a little bit of trim here. And again, if you did everything pretty carefully, you should be able to just stomp on the trim here and get about 500 feet per minute, which is a pretty comfortable speed. And you'll notice here, still chilling right around 1,800 RPM there, and we're about 500 feet per minute-ish. All right, I'm going to look out the side here. You got my lovely runway 24. Again, noise abatement in effect here. We're just staying nice and wide, chilling at about 70 knots here. Looks good to me. Every once in a while, just look over my shoulder. Sorry about the jerkiness there. It's my thumb controlling the control. All right, so we're going to go take our nice, gentle left turn here. And again, just trying to keep that 500 feet per minute in. You shouldn't need to be too aggressive with this. So.
Attention all aircraft. Bridgeport information. Oscar current. Altimeter 3016.
Good to know. So we're going to go ahead and come down this way and kind of square off a little bit. And we're going to take a look out the window. I'm more interested in what I see versus what the GPS tells me. That's fine. There we go. Just a little bit. Okay, that's delightful. So we're going to come cruising here. And again, normally what we do is you see a little kind of block of houses right there on the left. When we're down here in Bridgeport, we just kind of come at an angle. This is very square. It's the way we normally do it. One of the things you'll observe, though, is since I'm still at 1,800 RPM, my speed's been completely under control this entire approach here. So I'm going to go and take my next turn. Notice leisurely turns. Coming from the Cirrus, this thing is it's like flying a cozy coupe. It's absolutely fantastic. All right, so if you take a look now, still chilling about 1,800 RPM, and we are basically on speed. We need to get a little bit slower. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to back the throttle up a tiny bit, push the yoke forward, and push down the last click of flaps. Watch these two things happen at once. See that? You notice that my aircraft went down a little bit. My airspeed came down, but you'll also notice that I'm back on glide path. I'm actually perfect for this plane. Having 1 white and 3 reds is actually not a bad thing with this particular airplane. 2 whites, 2 reds is a little high for us. It means we're probably not going to be able to set down within the first 500-600 feet. So I'm doing about 65 knots. When I first learned the Cessna 172, 65 was the number we used. And the reason it's so nice is it gives you a good balance of controllability with that little extra margin of whoops, especially when you're learning. But the reality is, depending on how heavy your plane is, 60 knots is perfectly fine. We'll stick to 65 for today. So what I'm doing now is getting the big number 24 rather, right above the dashboard there. There we go, right there. We're still 65 knots. And what we're going to start doing is start gently bringing the power back here. We don't need to pull back all the way. Bring the power back to 0. And now you're going to transition into the landing attitude. So what you want to do is pull the nose up just a little bit. And there's our nice settle on the ground. Easy on the front wheel, bringing that down as well. Go ahead and give it a little bit of power. And then we're going to go ripping back off into the air again. What you probably noticed, and I think everybody would have caught that, is that we basically caught the plane on the ground right as the vertical speed came very close to its good position. That's kind of dangerous. As you probably can imagine, if you didn't time that right, you would have smacked into the ground and hit that propeller pretty darn hard, and that would have been a very expensive accident that you would have created. Now, if you get it right, it looks pretty smooth, like we just saw there. I could pull the nose up just a little bit more during that approach, but again, you can see just how fast when you go from no power, full power, or I should say partial power, to no power, that nose just wants to fall down. And that is a very, very Cessna 172 kind of problem to have. And there's a couple different ways we can get around it. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back around again. We'll use the same basic philosophy. But what we're going to do this time is we're going to show you what happens when you land with no flaps. And this is one of the things I like about a 172 is it's actually fairly forgiving as far as that nature goes. So you can see here we're about 600 feet just like we were before. Come swing to the left just like that. And we're going to, again, enjoy a nice little pattern. I'm actually going to bring the zoom out just a tiny bit here. Just makes it a little bit easier to see the alignment of everything. And again, 7.5 degrees is the magical angle if you've been following around with me. That's just the way math works. And we'll go ahead and square off our crosswind here. Looks good here. And again, call that same angle. Look at the side. You can see, again, we're trying to stay away from those houses. They don't like us flying over. It's a red zone when you check the chart. All right, so let's go ahead and take that left turn again. And this time we're going to show you what happens when you don't use your flaps. Now, you're probably sitting there going, oh no, scandalous, why would you not use flaps? It's called a windy day. So what we're going to do is come swing around here. And like I said, about 6 will be our opposite of 2-4, and that's looking pretty good. There's 1,000 feet. And you'll probably notice that the way that I did that little pattern of that shape, we end up at about 1,000 feet, just about at the same point every time. And again, I can suck a little bit of energy out of this plane to get that last 1,000 feet. All right, we're going to start backing our throttle up a little bit. And what we're trying to do, like I said, 85 knots is a sweet spot for this plane because it's just slow enough that we can bring in some flaps when we're coming in for a landing. Be careful with your trim here. What a lot of people like to do is they like to go really, 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 really hard on the trim. If you do that, that's wonderful. Just be ready to have to change it. And again, a 172, the control forces are so polite, you can get away with a little bit more than you probably should be able to get away with. There we go, lined up. Speed's good. We're getting a little slow, so bringing a little more power here. All right. So this time we're not going to touch the flaps. This is going to require a much steeper, actually shallower approach, my apologies, because there's nothing to slow us down. Let me show you what I mean. All right, and to the numbers, I'm sure those people are getting pretty grumpy at me. They're calling the FAA right now on me. All right, so I'm going to pull the throttle back. Now what you want to monitor this time is the fact that when I reduced the throttle, my speed didn't go down. That extra drag that our flaps gave us is gone. So all of our approaches now are going to require a much tighter speed control. As a matter of fact, if I close the throttle completely, and that just means I pull it all the way back, you could see that I'm slowing down, sort of, but again, not by as much as you probably expect. All right, there we go. Looking for that lovely 45-degree angle. That's it right there. I'm going to go ahead and take my left turn. And as you can see, I still have not had to touch the power. I'm still at the same situation I was a moment ago. We're going to go and square off. 70 knots is a good place to be if you're doing a no-flap landing here. It's messy. In the 172, it's pretty easy. But when you move to other aircraft, it's very nasty. Like if you're coming in like a Mooney, for example, doing it like that is going to be bad. One of the things you'll observe also is this aircraft is very low. We do not have that additional lift, so we're kind of having a double problem here. And that's one of the things I like about approaches like this, is it tests you a little bit. That's what I like. All right, so we're going to come swing around. We're at 75 knots, which is a pretty good speed. Again, we're basically holding level right now because we lost a little bit too much altitude when I cut the throttle. And there's our runway once again, and you can see we are one white, just like I promised a few moments ago. Go ahead and fix my seat here, make it nice and comfortable. Okay. This is where it's going to get weird. When you reduce the power on this, the lack of control on your elevator is going to be a little different. If you saw last time how we more or less 3-point landed it because of that lack of control there. Again, coming from Flight Sim, you don't quite get it as bad as you do in X-Plane. Again, the moment you pull that throttle back, it's kind of just on you. But what happens now is our angle of attack is going to have to be much higher if we want to reduce our speed. You'll see what I mean. Got a little bit of a crosswind going here, nothing catastrophic. I could actually pull the throttle back and get all the way down to the ground. That's just how little drag we have right now. Look at that. Throttle's closed. 75 knots. Go and give it a little bit of slip. There we go. Now watch this. Come in for a landing. I actually hate that G1000. Like, the synthetic vision is just so distracting. Look at this. See that? See how high the nose is? It's still 7.5 degrees. You can't see over that thing. All right, let's go ahead and give it full power. We'll go back around again. Did you also notice that there was very little hesitation? Once we got over the runway, it was like, okay, we're on the ground now. Okay. Like, it didn't change attitude when we hit the ground, which is just different. So what we're going to do this time, of course, is we're going to do a short landing. We're going to basically cut the power and get the plane safely on the ground as if you had an engine out somewhere in the traffic pattern. Now, what I really like about landings like this is they absolutely test your ability to, kind of manage your energy, pay attention to different components. And the big thing for us is manage our drag. As a general rule for this plane, you don't really want to put your flaps all the way down until you know you're going to get to the runway. Then you can put your flaps down. But when you put the flaps down, you're going to get a lift boost immediately followed by that hit of drag. And you have to kind of catch it. And you'll see what I mean when we get set up for it. So we'll go ahead and take our off. Man, this thing is just so leisurely. I've been flying these high-performance planes so much lately. I'm having trouble with this one. All right, we'll go ahead and take our nice gentle takeoff. We'll take a left turn there, about 600 feet. It doesn't take too much rudder, even though we're going a little bit slow there. And again, those clouds are nasty for basically going cross-country, but they're not nasty for us today. All right, a gentle turn. Go say hi to that sailboat. That is some really good visibility for Long Island Sound here. It's a lovely day. It is a lovely day. Mad Max. All right, that looks good to me. Looks good to me. All right. So what we're going to do this time is we're going to have an engine out at the moment that we cross the threshold there. And I love this plane because when you have an engine out, it's very predictable. Like, there's no drama to it. Like, it just goes. Like, and you're going to get that whirling propeller up front. It's going to start windmilling, as they call it. Everything is going to happen slowly. You're going to get to watch the place you crash from time. It's not going to happen all at once. And it's another one of these reasons why this plane is just so good for this kind of work. Again, I wouldn't want to have to fly one of these every day kind of a thing if I'm traveling. But man, it is just fabulous for just general purpose use. It's just like the family car. All right, we're all squared away. Let's get my speed to about 85. It's going to make it a little bit easier for us. Obviously, we could be a little cheeky and go up to like 110 or something like that. But that's no good for us. There we go. All squared up. Everything's looking pretty good to us. About 80. We're a little slow for this, but we're going to be fine. There we go. A little bit of power. That's okay. Now, the interesting thing about a 172 is when we do lose the engine, you're looking for about 70 knots, which is a little bit slower than some other aircraft. You can even go as low as 65 if you want to click a flaps, but I'm not too worried about it today. All right, that's looking pretty darn square. Let's go ahead and cause some problems. Achoo! Bad allergies. All right. Click a flaps, immediately turn towards the airport, and we're going to start getting started here. So here's what I want to pay attention to. I want to pay attention to how well we're doing, and I also want to pay attention to our glide speed. See the little G right there? That's our glide speed. No matter what you do, keep the aircraft at the glide speed. And that's right there, 69 knots, right there. See, I've got it perfect. If I were you, I'd even go so far as to trim the plane for the glide speed, because if you do that, you're going to be safer. Now, I'm plenty close enough to this runway. Remember, you're never going to have a problem as long as you stay close to the runway. Go ahead and push the nose down a little bit. Okay, this is important. Don't touch the rest of the flaps unless you're absolutely confident you're going to get down. Even then, I would recommend just keep it at, well, basically 1 or 2 clicks of flaps. All right, we're going to bring in a click of flaps, nose down. Remember, this is an emergency. Landing on the threshold is okay. Last click of flaps. All right, I'm going to go ahead and slip the plane. So all we're doing is flying sideways here. Keep an eye on your speed, keep an eye on your speed, keep an eye on your speed, keep an eye on your speed. Again, we're flying sideways here, but this is an emergency, so who cares? All right, I'm just going to go ahead and transition. We're a little high, so I'm going to let the nose come down, let the nose come down. We're going to plant right in front of the big white markers. Delightful. Barely even felt that. Fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and get easy on the brakes, and I'm going to curse the mechanic who worked. Actually, it was me. That caused that problem. So as you can see, absolutely solid airplane, especially when you keep the engine running. You'll find it much, much easier to control. But one of the things I did want to point out there is as long as you are just generally aware of the energy of the plane, you're not really going to have much trouble with it. Like I said, it's just so polite. And doing maneuvers like that are just great, great ways of kind of reinforcing the different ways in which a plane actually handles, getting you comfortable with all the situations that happen with it. Enjoy.